Some betrayals you can see coming a mile away. And then there are the ones that just shatter your world so completely you forget how to breathe. Mine was the second kind. This betrayal didn't come from an enemy or some stranger on the street. It came from the two people I loved more than life itself, my husband and my own daughter. He used his money like a weapon, and she pulled the trigger the second my own daughter looked the judge in the eye and lied. A part of me just died. I never ever imagined the little girl I raised, my Elena, could be bought. But my wealthy ex-husband found her price. This is the story of how he paid our daughter to choose him over me, and how I somehow survived the ultimate betrayal. It wasn't always this broken. For 15 years, we were a family. On the outside, we probably looked perfect. A beautiful home, a successful husband, and a bright, spirited daughter. My husband, Mark, was a master at building empires, both in business and at home. He gave us a life of luxury, but everything came with strings. His love always felt conditional, like his approval was a transaction. I learned to walk on eggshells around his moods, to make myself smaller just to keep the peace. Elena, though, she was a firecracker. She was my entire world, and I really thought I was hers. The first real crack in our perfect facade showed up when Elena was 16. She started seeing a boy who was much older, a man in his early 20s. Every single maternal instinct in my body screamed that this was wrong. I saw all the red flags, the potential for harm, just the way he looked at her. I tried to shield her, to set boundaries, but Mark saw it differently. For him, her rebellion was just a tool he could use. It was then that I realized I wasn't just fighting for my daughter's safety. I was fighting against my own husband's influence over her. Our arguments became his ammunition. Our marriage, which was already hanging by a thread because of his need for control, finally snapped. The day I told him I wanted a divorce, he didn't look sad. He looked strategic. He gave me this cold, thin smile and said, "You'll regret this. You'll leave with nothing. Not even her." I thought it was just an empty threat, the angry words of a man with a bruised ego. I had no idea he meant it literally. During the separation, the first real blow came when Elena just flat out refused to leave with me. She chose to stay in that huge house with him, with all the freedom he promised her. That was the first time my heart didn't just break, it fractured. It all started subtly. A brand new car for her 17th birthday, a credit card with no limit, trips I could never in a million years afford to give her. Mark wasn't just giving her gifts. He was buying her loyalty. Every luxury he gave her came with a side of poison, a little whisper in her ear that I was the one holding her back, that I was jealous, that my rules were just there to stifle her. He painted me as the villain, the one and only obstacle to her happiness. My calls to Elena started going straight to voicemail. Our weekly lunches were canceled at the last minute, every time. When we did manage to talk, her voice was cold, so distant. She'd parrot his phrases, talking about how I didn't understand her, how I was just trying to control her life. I could feel my daughter slipping away, being replaced by a stranger who looked at me with her father's contempt. I remember one afternoon, I actually waited for her outside her school, desperate for just 5 minutes. I told her, "Elena, honey, all I have ever wanted is to protect you." She just scoffed right in my face. Protect me? Or control me? Dad lets me be my own person. You just want me to be some little version of you. I felt so powerless. He had all the resources, all the money. He could offer her a world of material things and complete freedom, especially with that older boyfriend I deeply distrusted. All I had was a mother's love and concern, and against his wealth, it felt like nothing. The more I fought to pull her back, the more I just proved his point. He had laid the perfect trap, and I walked right into it, dragging my daughter along with me. I was losing her, and I was completely Utterly alone, the day of the custody hearing, I felt sick with dread, but a tiny part of me clung to hope. Hope that my daughter would finally see the truth. That underneath all the anger and the rebellion, the little girl who used to braid my hair and fall asleep in my arms was still in there somewhere. I was so naive when she took the stand. She looked like a total stranger. She was dressed in expensive clothes I'd never seen before, her face a mask of cold composure. Her lawyer asked her what it was like living with me. I held my breath, praying, and then the lies began in a clear, steady voice. She told the court I was abusive and controlling. Every word was a knife in my heart. She twisted memories of me setting curfews into stories of me locking her in her room. My pleas for her to be careful with the older man were painted as me trying to sabotage her happiness. She told the court she felt suffocated by me, that she was afraid of me. My own daughter, it was soul-crushing. To hear my daughter repeat these lies, painting me as some kind of villain. I looked over at Mark. He was staring straight ahead, but I caught the flicker of triumph in his eyes. He'd done it. He had coached her, fed her those lines, and turned our child into his perfect, beautiful little weapon. In that moment, watching her testify against me, the hope didn't just fade. It was extinguished. A part of me shattered right there on that courtroom floor, and I knew with devastating certainty that I had lost her. Can you even imagine the pain of that moment? If this story resonates with you at all, please take a second to like this video. It tells the platform that these stories matter, and it truly helps more than you know. The judge's decision was really just a formality. I lost custody, but Mark's victory wasn't complete until he twisted the knife one last time. The court ordered me to pay him child support. Him, the man with a multi-million-dollar portfolio. Me, the woman who had just emptied her life savings on a lawyer I couldn't really afford. The next 3 years were a total blur of financial struggle and emotional agony. I got a second job, moved into a tiny apartment, and went deep into debt, but I never missed a single child support payment. Every month, writing that check was a bitter reminder of everything I had lost. I was paying for the privilege of my daughter living a life of luxury with the man who had turned her against me. About a year after the hearing, I ran into her at a coffee shop. It was the first time I'd seen her up close in months. I tried to talk to her, to appeal to her one more time. I told her my side of this story, that my only goal had ever been to protect her. Her response just gutted me. She looked at me, her eyes filled with this cruelty I'd never seen before, and said it served me right to be the one paying for her now. And then she delivered the final blow. She told me she hated being my child. That was it. That was the moment I finally let go. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. There was nothing left to hold on to. The daughter I knew was gone, and the person standing in her place didn't want me. I had to accept that I'd lost, and the only way forward was to somehow learn to live with the giant hole in my heart. For a long, long time, my life was just about survival. I worked, I paid my bills, and I tried not to think about the life my daughter was living without me. I focused on myself, on healing, on slowly rebuilding a life from the ashes. It was a quiet, lonely process. Then, not long after Elena turned 18, I heard something through a mutual friend. Things had changed. Turns out, the life of boundless freedom her father promised came with consequences. The older boyfriend was long gone, and now that Elena was an adult with her own opinions, her relationship with her father had soured. Big surprise. The details were vague, but one thing was clear. She wasn't living with him anymore. In fact, she was crashing at her new boyfriend's place, bouncing from couch to couch. The stability his money was supposed to buy had been an illusion the whole time. Then came the most unbelievable part. Mark had actually reached out to my parents. He apologized for kicking Elena out, and agreed to help her move in with them for a while. When my mom told me, I didn't feel joy or a sense of victory. I just felt this profound sadness. Sadness for the little girl who was used as a pawn in her father's sick game. Sadness for all the years we had lost. His manipulation had finally run its course, and my daughter was left to pick up the pieces. Just like I had been, I don't know if Elena and I can ever get back to the relationship we once had. The damage was just immense, and some wounds don't ever really heal, do they? She has a long road ahead of her to understand the manipulation she went through and to find her own 2 feet. As for me, I finally found some peace. I survived the worst betrayal imaginable, and I learned that my worth isn't tied to being a wife or even a mother. It's defined by my own strength. I'm not that broken woman in the courtroom anymore. I'm a survivor, and now I want to ask you, what would you have done in my situation? Have you ever experienced a betrayal that cut this deep? Share your story in the comments below, because sometimes just knowing you're not alone is the first step toward healing. And if you want to hear more stories about resilience and survival, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss a thing.